everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. I am, of course, your host, Coach Camp. And do you see where we are? We are in these illustrious studios known as SRP, down here with Mr. Derek Michaud. Now, look, every week I look forward to my guests because I know they're going to bring something unique, something kind of awesome to the table. Depends on what the avenue is. It's going to usually hit for most people. And this individual, this week, oh man, this week, this guy's kind of awesome. Look, I got news for you. If you ever want to just find salt of the earth people, salt of the earth, and that's what I'm talking about here. Somebody that is just genuine, they're real, they want to hang out with people just because they're good folks. That is going to be my guest. My guest this week is Mr. Chuk Cole. He is the owner, the operator of Cole Entertainment Services. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've known this gentleman for a very long time. We didn't hang out a whole lot as we got older, but then as I got older and reconnected, it's like he's just gold. And I have a lot of unique stories to talk about, but I brought him in because we're talking about entrepreneurs. We're talking about pursuing goals. We're talking about hard work, focus, and just living a really solid life. And this guy's story is going to relate with a lot of you guys out there. So welcome, Mr. Chuk Cole. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for coming down to the studio today. I know you're a busy guy.
Hey, we can be some days.
Yeah.
Can be some days.
I mean, running your own business and then just all the other stuff on top of that
That's
you
right.
do. I mean, I know that there's a lot there. You just mentioned to me before you came in that you were traipsing through the woods.
I was
Yeah.
just a little bit of downtime. February is one of our slower months. And
Yeah.
So, I get out there and get on the skid steer or get on the excavator, take out any nuisance trees, drive around, look for deer sheds and stuff like that.
I got news for you. That's better than rides at the fair.
It is.
I rented a Bobcat on my property.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I tore so much stuff up. So I think probably things that shouldn't have been getting tore up, but it was fine because I had a great time. My wife wasn't as thrilled, but nevertheless. So I want to get some backstory. I want people to know who you are before we dive into what you do and what you've been able to come from. And I think that's important. So tell us a little bit about where Chuk came from.
I grew up in Walls, Mississippi, throughout, all the way up to about seventh grade. Then we moved to South Haven and graduated South Haven High School. And, there's ups and downs, all that right there. But, put myself through, I was headed to Mississippi State for aerospace engineering. And like when I was 14 years old, we had a opportunity I had my uncle who ran the company, a similar company to what I have now. He called me and he said, we need some help with the Horde Festival down at Mud Island. We need a couple extra stagehands. And I'm 14 years old. I had a goatee and a mustache, thought I was a little cool. It wasn't as full as it is now.
I was just say it was no different then. And you were in seventh grade?
Yeah, I was in eighth grade.
Eighth grade with a goatee and a mustache.
Yeah. And my mom dropped me off
crazy.
up there,
I got a whisker when I was 19. It took a while. But anyways, yeah. So you were still in school. Obviously. And so then he's like, hey, look, you want to come out here and help put some stuff together. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I showed up out there and it was the Horde Festival, the Horizons of Rock Development Festival, or Horizons of Rock Development everywhere. And they needed a stagehand, and I came out there and shined up. I'd been cutting grass in the neighborhood, pushing my lawnmower around, and I got out there and it was really easy work. And they were like, you worked hard. And I was like, well, it wasn't that bad. It's like, this is really in that hard. It's kind of cool,
Yeah.
And so I did that all through high school and it put me through college for the most part. I didn't get to finish college because aerospace engineering is not conducive to having a job to go with it.
Hang on, time out. So I want to back up just a little bit here. Did you have brothers, sisters?
Yeah, I had 9 brothers and 2 sisters.
Are you serious?
I'm the oldest.
How do I not know this? 9 brothers and 2 sisters. That's more than a football team.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
Wow. And so then you didn't break the mold. Because usually, I mean, I know you. You're like me. You're full of energy and stuff. You got things going on. Be like, oh, you know what? We're done with this. We're not having. They'd be like, hey, Chuck's all right. We're gonna keep making them. That's awesome. So all right. So you're obviously the oldest that's going to be starting out, and people are going to look to you. Your brothers, sisters are going to look to you as mentorship. Obviously. How much is the span from you to your youngest sibling?
I think Garrett is 19, maybe 20. I'm not sure. I hadn't talked to him in a minute. But
yeah. So, but what I'm getting at though is that, you're starting out into the workspace at a very young age, showed that you obviously have some work ethic at 14, which is hard to find in any generation. It doesn't matter where you come from. I mean, maybe not back in my grandparents' time, but still,
Right.
like when I was growing up at 14, it was baseball or take a nap. I think is pretty much where I was at. There's not really much else going on. So you start down the road of working a little bit at 14, and what was your parents? Were they a big influence in that, or is that just something you decided you wanted to do?
Well, without going into the too deep into that, it was lack of things that we needed.
So you guys
it was like, hey, this ain't gonna get paid unless somebody pays it.
I see.
And we didn't have much money.
It was a life necessity then.
It was a necessity, and
Sure.
and I wanted to be like those other kids, getting to go and do stuff. So the only way to do it was to go out and make my own money doing it. And I pushed my lawnmower around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And whatever I could do to make some money. And I made a pretty good living at 18 years old. I was rolling pretty good and trying to go to school.
How much were you making?
Around 40 grand a year.
40 grand at 19?
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to break that right now. That's awesome.
But I mean, I say that. I mean, you'd work. I'd cut about 30 yards a week at about
Wow.
$30 a yard. You know what I mean? I'd work at I'd do a concert 2 or 3 days a week. In the evening, and it worked out. It was pretty good.
You're stepping past that like it's not a big deal, but I think that there's a denominator here that I need us to be able to focus in on. You weren't afraid to work. And I think part of that coming from a family that didn't have surplus, okay, that humble means is important because it does show that you did not see yourself as a victim of society. You did not see yourself as incapable of being able to be better tomorrow than you were yesterday. You knew that there is a path, but you were going to have to put the work in. And at a young age, man, that's maturity. That's maturity. And so clearly you saw yourself as being able to be capable to do something more than what you had been. And you mentioned, and this is part I got to go back to here, aerospace engineering. Look, I don't know anything about that, but when you say aerospace and you have engineering separately, that seems like some really brainiac ideas, and you combine them. That's got to be really, really smart. So you're a borderline genius.
Oh, no. No borderline genius. I mean, I was trying to go for like a double major, and I'm not trying to add to it, but it was mechanical and aerospace together is what I was trying for.
Okay.
But I never really struggled in school. I mean, I had a really good average, when I graduated high school. Didn't have to try real hard to do it. Well, when you went to real school, Mississippi State, they wanted to step up the game a little bit.
Ramped up.
And I didn't have the background to study like you needed to for that because everything had came real easy.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I think about athletics. Obviously Coach Camp is not just a gimmick. It turns out we have a connection there. I think I coached one of your daughters back.
You did?
Yeah. So I actually literally coached one of his kids. So in softball many years ago, many years ago. But that said, sometimes in sports, and being the coach, sometimes in sports, you will see a kid that has natural God-given talent.
Absolutely.
They step out on a ball field. They're great. They didn't have to have a lot of coaching. Mm-hmm. And what's important about those kids, though, is that they don't get stuck in their own head thinking that they don't have to work hard. They don't have to try. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes there's a wake-up call that comes along, and they're like, well, they realize, oh, dang, yeah, I've really got to apply myself. And it sounds like to me that you were kind of that kid that stepped on the ball field the first time. You're like, man, this is easy. I'm hitting home runs, no big deal. Then you get moved up to the big leagues for a second. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
That's right.
Game just changed.
That's very apple. I mean, I wouldn't have put that together, but that's exactly what it is.
And so then when that happens, what do? What happens to Chuck at that moment?
You punt.
Oh, man, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. I got to tell you something. I've used that analogy many times. When you punt, you're not giving up.
That's right.
You still want to score.
Right.
You're just trying to put yourself in a better position.
That's right.
So when you punted, what happens to Chuck at that point? Where do you go?
Well, I actually started, I had an opportunity I had been doing a little bit of engineering, like audio engineering, mm-hmm. and with the concert thing. And I was working at the Grand Casino because I couldn't keep up with my grades. And,
trying to do two things.
Yeah. And so I was working at the Grand Casino as a audio engineer, and Brian, I don't remember his last name, Brian, the tour manager for Leonard Skinner, they were doing a show at the University of Alabama, mm-hmm. and it was the homecoming show, and I don't remember exactly what year it was. I think it was 01 or 02, and they were short on They were short on stagehands, and they know not always done this stuff. And I get in there and just talk with them.
How old were you at that time?
24, 23,
Okay.
24.
So you've been doing it for a few years now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he called me, and Jim Green called me, and both of them were like, can you please get us some guys down here for this thing, because this other guy did not show up with his hands. And I was like, yeah, I can get it. How many you need? He's like 30. And I'm like, all right. So I brought some family down and guys I've been working with for years, and there was the birth of Cole Entertainment Services. It was at the University of Alabama homecoming in like 2001, 2, something like that.
So word of mouth, you've been putting out the reputation clearly that you can handle this thing. Your mind, it's like, boom, let's call Chuk for a minute. You deliver. And in that moment, did you know that the tide was turning, that this was about to happen?
I had no idea what it would turn into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes it's hard to see something when it's happening, and then you have some reflection. You're like, that's when it came together.
That's right.
So after that moment, then what happens next for Chuk? I mean, like you leave there, and where does that stuff start to grow from?
Well, because I took very good care of Jim on that weekend, he was able to get me University of Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and then I started taking over the labor for Grand Casino, which was given opportunity by Greg Hackney. He was like, just quit doing this audio. Well, he said, you're fired from doing the audio engineering, and we're gonna hire you to do our labor.
He was redirecting your talents.
That's exactly what it was.
You're no longer an outfielder. You're going to be a first baseman.
That's right.
No.
That's right. Called for a fair catch on that punt.
That's right.
Something like that.
I love it.
And so it's grown from there.
Sure.
I mean, we've, a lot of cool opportunities that have just showed up. And then we took over the Landers Center. There's only been one show that we did not do that was in the Landers Center. I hung the very first point as a high steel rigger at the Landers Center.
How about that?
And it was the DeSoto Civic Center at the time.
Yeah.
And, so it's just grown from there, man. I mean, we're doing, around 800 events a year. And
how many people do you have working for you? More than 30.
Oh, yeah. I think last year we had a pool about 2,300.
Wow.
So
is it now? I didn't know this, by the way. If you guys think, oh, well, he knew him since he was a kid. Yeah, but I didn't know these parts. And I did want to know these parts before we came in the studio because I wanted to be surprised by some stuff. And I am. And so is this a nationwide organization?
We're regional. We're regional.
Regional.
Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas. We do a lot of work in Missouri.
Okay.
When the Super Bowl's coming to New Orleans next year, we'll probably get a pretty good percentage of that.
Wow.
So and we do the largest corporate meeting or one of the largest corporate meetings for Walmart. We've done that for almost 19 years, or for 15, 16 years. I don't want to give you a year on that.
Yeah.
We've been the primary labor provider for Memphis and May for all these years, and we hold the largest market share in the Mid-South by handily, and we hold the largest market share in Mississippi alone, and we're probably third in Tennessee, behind Crew One and Rhino Productions. But those are a lot bigger companies. It's just me and 3 guys at the office and a little team of about 2,200, 2,300 people. So.
Right. So this is interesting. So I think maybe we're fast forwarding on some stuff because I really think this has. No, it's fine. It's fine because I really want to build the idea of how this happened. So you just, if you don't mind me doing this, so I like to break it down because I got to understand some stuff too. So you have a passion for work. I'm going to say a passion for work, a passion for allowing yourself to put yourself in a position to be successful.
That's right.
That could come a lot of ways. And that's not unique in life. I think every single person has that within them. It's just, are you willing to do what it takes? Okay. And now we mentioned this before, and this part I did know about coming in was that you said sometimes it takes a little luck. Gary Parrish, you familiar with that guy?
I am.
Yeah, he came on my show. He was the first one at the beginning of the season. So he's a commentator for CBS Sports and stuff. And he mentioned the same thing because he had a hard work ethic. He was constantly grinding, and he just happened to be in the right place at the right time and do the right job that caught the right person's attention.
That's right.
That shot him out of the cannon, so to speak. Now, I don't disagree that sometimes in life it does take being in the right moment, and you have some fortune and luck that comes your way to be able to be successful. But I think that there has to be a foundation of something that's there that you can't just go find luckily. It has to be within you.
That's right. It has to be in your skill
That
set.
work ethic has to be there. That desire to be good at something has to be there. That's not lucky. That part's inside you, right? That's personality. Right. That's driven through who you are. Well, and that's what you did. So you were doing a good job, working hard as a young person, and which built the reputation. And so now I'm walking this back from the idea of where luck does fit in to an extent. And there was a great person that I love because I'm a Yankees fan named Yogi Berra. He said, I'd rather be lucky than good. All right, I get it. I get it, Yogi. But so here you are. You've done this job and you're known for it, and they happen to have a shortage. They need somebody to step in, which was kind of how it happened with Gary. And they said, all right, this guy's been grinding. He's been out here doing it. When you were doing that, did you have expectations of becoming something bigger than where you were? Or were you just, that's where I wanted to build it back to, was you get the big break, but leading up to then, what was the idea in your head?
Well, I just really wanted something that, I mean, let me think about that for a second.
Yeah, and it's a tough question.
It is.
You didn't know all the questions I was going to throw at you, which is fine.
Any of them.
This is the authenticity of it, right?
Right.
So when you're leading up to that point where you got your break, though, right. I mean, what is your mindset? Because I'll relate it, and then this maybe make it a little clearer for you to think about it for a second. And that is when I came into where I'm at right now. Right now. And so it's been 3 years since I took my phone. I literally sat it up on a garbage can and I said, I'm going to start being a part of the process to be better and not cause an issue where it's negative. And I just put out a message. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know who was going to see it. I didn't know if anybody would even care, or I would just get a lot of hate mail and you're stupid, get it off the garbage can. I didn't know how it was going to look, but I knew I was going to do something that I felt like it was going to be bigger than me. And I didn't care where it led. I was just going to keep grinding.
Right.
3 years later, I'm not rich, but that's not the goal. But for me, it is the idea that I'm having an impact.
Right.
And here I am in SRP Studios, and we have a nationally syndicated broadcast that is seen all across America. We're in 19 different countries, and I'm just some little country bodunk dude that has squirrels running around his head. And I could have never dreamed that we would be in this place right now 3 years later.
Right.
So for you already said that it was bigger than you ever thought it would have been. But in that moment, you knew you were doing something important and you were going to give your best effort every time. So before you had that break, before you had that opportunity to start setting up for all these different stadiums, what was the vision in that moment?
The vision in that moment was, I didn't realize all the perks and the extra stuff that kind of went with it. But the vision in that moment was something that could make me not money. It's just something that can make me content that I could be good at. My grandfather always told me, he said, I don't care what you do, but I just want you to be the best at what you do. And I'm by far not the best at what I do.
Well, you're always going to be working towards that, but right? It's a goal.
It is. It's a goal. And I mean, I wanted something that I could rely on, that I could build, and just, I don't know, it's just be a part of it. You know what I mean? I mean, that's really vague to say it that way, but I wanted to grow something that I felt that I could just have pride in, that my family could be proud of.
I think you actually explained it better than you realize. What you just gave to my listeners right now is that your scope, as far as what you were doing in that moment, was to just be the best version of you.
That's right.
The best version of you didn't have to be being the best in the business ever. That would be great if it could happen, but you always wanted to deliver the best version of you. And that translated. And that's why you got your lucky break. You actually didn't realize you were connecting the dot I was trying to connect on that. And that is when you go out in life, and it doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to do, if it is a passion of yours and you just give your best at something, who knows what doors will open up. I just knew I was going to give the best positive message I possibly could every time I had that opportunity. And it has led me to this point. I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years. Chuck, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years. I'd like to think that it's even going to be bigger and more grand.
Right.
But here's what I do know. My heart's in it for the right reason. And I'm doing things to the best of my ability each time I get behind this microphone.
Right.
And that's what you were doing. And that's what the message is that I want to give to my listeners is when you step up, whatever that is you're going to do in life, don't go through the motions, man. Don't go through the motions. Put your heart into it. Give it your best, because you're actually a representative, not just of yourself, but of your family in your case. And so you were doing that. You get your big break. You go to the different stadiums. At what point does it's like where you're like, oh, crap, this is getting bigger. I'm probably going to need more than 30 people. Was there like a moment?
Well, because one thing that we haven't discussed is I own 6 companies right now. And this is the primary. This is the one. This is the one I built my whole life off of.
I know why we didn't, because I didn't know that. So please keep talking. I like it.
But the primary, but this was ancillary at the time.
Okay.
You know, I was cut. Like I said, I kind of turned the cutting grass thing into something.
So you had a whole lawn business.
I had a little lawn business. I had a job at the gas station to go with it. You know, whatever I could do to make a little money. But once I started to get to the point where, all right, this I can do, and you know, I need to focus here because this is something different. This is something special. And the grass thing, and the lawn, and the landscaping, and the we did some traveling with that stuff, and I was like, I'm missing out on this show over here to where, and the entertainment squashed the lawn business, and that's when it dawned on me like, this is all right. I have arrived. Mm-hmm. You know what? I have arrived.
So it just kind of grew organically.
It did.
It wasn't like an intentional approach. You were, it sounds like you had a lot of irons in the fire.
I did.
And
I do.
And you still do, obviously, yes. And then it just started to grow. And then all of a sudden you realize, all right, I got to reprioritize what I got going on here.
Yeah, I
think that is exactly what entrepreneurs do all the time, actually.
Yeah.
You got to be fluid in motion.
You do.
If you're concrete, you're going to get stagnant. You're going to miss out on opportunities. Mm-hmm. And so you went where the path made the most sense at that point.
That's exactly right. And I structured my focus in the right direction, where it needed to be focused.
Did you have some influence? Did you have some people that you could bounce stuff off of?
Well, I really wanted to go. I got to backtrack a little bit because, you know, there's a whole lot more to it than our little hour's going to give us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We're going to hit the backup button. Beep, beep, beep. That's all I got. But go ahead, yeah.
But there, you know, when I was in school,
mm-hmm.
and we were talking about how I was working a lot, there were a lot of teachers, and because, you know, my parents, they had their problems, you know what I mean? And for a while we got taken away from our parents. We were custody of the state. But a lot of teachers jumped in there, and a lot of coaches, Coach Williams, Miss Hughes, Miss Franklin, Miss Thomas.
Miss Franklin, yeah.
And they all came in and really banded together, took us under their wing. And when it came down to it, you know, I really wanted to make sure those people, that I did right by those people, that they believed in me, that I gave them something to believe in. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, seriously, it was a goal of mine and my grandparents too. Both my grandfathers and my grandmothers they believed in me, and they helped me out where they could. And it's more than anything in my life is to live up to what they expected of me. And, you know, that might not be the right message, but I
think that's a perfect message.
They invested their thoughts and beliefs in me, and I really wanted to make sure
you didn't want to let them down.
I didn't want to let them down. Yeah, it still haunts me, you know, that I want to make sure that I'm right by these folks.
I think that's great. And I'll be honest with you. So it actually does follow the same vein of so many of my other podcasts that I've put together, is that it just sometimes, and this kind of relates to a coach as well, sometimes it's all about you believing in someone else, and that gives them the inspiration and motivation they needed to become successful in their own right, whatever that looks like. And whenever they have a person to look back at and be like, look, this person was a great mentor to me, and I don't want to let them down. Maybe that's something they needed for fuel, because every person ticks a little different, and we all have to have our little areas or moments of inspiration. And so that's actually when I asked the question earlier, who was an influence to you? That tells me there is a comment that says it takes a village to raise a child. Sounds like that village was involved.
It was.
And it's important because it did develop the person that you are. And when we get on the back half of this break in a minute, I've got some notes down here. We're going to talk about some of that and how I think a lot of that influences you to be the person you are today, and it's stayed with you this whole time. And that's why it's so, so important to invest in somebody. Invest in somebody because you don't know what that person might need. And whenever you're that light, that person, that one moment that they see, hey, this individual believes in me, Maybe I should believe in myself.
That's right.
Doors start to open. Your work ethic was there. I know it seems like we talked a lot about your business of the entertainment services, but in the end, it's the idea of who you are and why you're the person you are and your backstory. I didn't know that you guys went into foster care.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part. Again, another surprise factor.
Oh, I could go on all day.
I'm sure you could. Well, that's why whenever we were talking, and just to give my listeners just some context here, Mr. Chuk is also my hay guy. So I have a horse and a cow and got these little farm animals. I don't know what they're doing out there, but I need hay. And so I started getting my hay from Chuk, and we got to know each other a little better and started talking. And when we started talking, I'm like, I need you behind my microphone. I need you to come into my studio, Derek Me Show studio, but I need you on my show being able to talk about this because your story is so important. Do you know how many kids right now we're talking? There's a parent right now watching this and they know a kid that says, hey, I need this kid to watch this episode because your story will resonate. Okay. I have my areas that I had to push through and try to achieve stuff, but I can't relate to going into foster care. I was fortunate in that respect. People need to know that you can start out in a rough spot. You can be a kid that probably came from very humble means and you have a couple of people invest in you and they believe in you. And then all of a sudden doors start to open and you start to see the possibilities and you see your own personal self-worth. And now all of a sudden here you are growing and you didn't leave it on the table. You're giving that back now. And that, my friend, is what we're about to touch on when we come back from this break, because I got news for you, Chuk. I love you, brother. I mean, when I'm talking to you on that farm the other day, I'm like, man, this story's going to play. So many people need this.
Well,
they need this story. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to hit on some of those awesome things and anything else that I don't know about to even ask.
All right.
Please throw it in.
Well, some of it's not like some of it's not as it's a sad story in certain parts.
That's okay, though, because look at you right now.
That's right.
I'm looking at a happy person.
Oh, I'm a happy dude. There's not a day I wake up that I do not love every minute of every day of my life.
I guarantee you, and that is why you need to share some of that if you want to. Now, no pressure.
I'll
if
share.
You want to, because that's what's going to play for my listeners. They need to know that. They need to know that a person can come through some tough stuff and be an amazing person. So come right back right after this break.
A great opportunity awaits. The Motivate with Coach Camp podcast is now in its second season, and we are excited to say that we have listeners all over the United States and in 19 countries. If you have a company and you're interested in some very affordable advertising, while at the same time supporting a great cause, please go to motivatewithcoachcamp.com and fill out that sponsorship page, and we'll get right back to you. You can support the podcast through donations on Venmo at Motivate with Coach Camp. Thank you to all the listeners and guests who have blessed this podcast with their engagement and involvement.
All right, welcome back. Just before we went to the break, I was talking to my friend Chuk here, and we had went down a long road of, his job, all the different types of jobs he's had, his businesses, what helped develop him to the person he is, and then we even touched into some of the different influences that he's had. Now, here's what I know. We're friends on Facebook, obviously, and I see your stuff that you post, and fascinated by your trips. Look, this gentleman he's successful by worldly standards, and that being you're financially stable. And so you're able to share some of those moments. You're just like, hey, look, I came from hard means. Now you figure it out. No, that's not who you are at all, which is why I just absolutely, your personality is one. If I could just clone it and then put it in other people, he's taking folks to like the Bahamas. You're fishing, you're catching these gigantic fish. I mean, like I caught a brim last year and it was the size of my hand. I was excited. I'm looking at this thing like, that's the size of my car. You're going hunting.
Yep.
I think you killed like a 75-point deer this past year or something. It was incredible. The head was massive. And you just share these moments with people that clearly comes from your background and the heart that you have for others. And the fact that, you know what it's like sometimes to go through tough times and you want to share that joy with other people. So do you want to talk about some of that with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go fishing and hunting, and I'll do it two different ways. And these are just, I've been blessed with the opportunities I have right now. We during the break, we talked a little bit about money, but I'm very blessed and then been able to gen some pretty good numbers in my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm not the best at saving money, so I've invested in like property down on the coast, and I've invested in land here at home. And I've always nobody ever really gave me. I mean, my uncle took me dove hunting, and I'm thank him for introducing me to the outdoors. But I know that what I do fishing wise, I fish out of Venice, Louisiana, for tuna, for yellowfin tuna, mahi, snapper, and stuff like that. And I'm sitting on a $1 million boat, and right beside it, I own a $400,000 boat. Right, they're sitting right beside each other. And I pull up to the fuel dock, and there's $1 million boat, $1 million boat, $1 million boat, $1 million boat, and there's these charters, and these guys are paying $3,500 a day plus everything. And I try to take families and groups with me that I know can't afford. It's a $6,000 weekend after they've spent their time.
Sure.
It's a $6,000 fishing trip. And with me, so many people that work with me, I know what they make. I know they can't afford that. There's families and young people get to go see stuff you've never seen in the world. Yeah. My theory on that is I'm going to go fishing either way. I'm going to pay for the gas either way. Y'all just get in the boat and come on. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we're going to do what I want to do. But it usually turns into a pretty good adventure.
Yeah, sure.
So I try that. If fishing wise, I really, and I've got some great partners down there. We own, like I said, we own a bunch of stuff down there, but it makes it to where we get to go down there and have a good time, and we don't really stress over the money of the situation. We just want to, I mean, really and truly, we provide an opportunity. Making memories.
Sharing life.
Yeah, making memories and sharing life. Some of the, there's a whole other podcast in some of that stuff. I promise you. There's another hour. I could go for days on some of the people that have been able to take fishing that are no longer with us, but they still to this day, when I went to their funeral, half the pictures were on that boat with us. Wow. You know what I mean? And it meant so much to them. And just, and then with hunting, I really try to take underprivileged kids and I try to take people that just haven't been given, because I was never given that. I didn't buy my first gun and to go deer hunting until I was 25 years old, and then I've been able to purchase property, and there's a young family, and I'm going to go ahead and say their name, the Simpsons. And these boys, they raise goats, they work hard. They don't really have much. I know they don't have much, but they are some of the best kids in the world. And they get so excited. I mean, one of them's got a heart problem, and it just being able to be out there and share those experiences, because I get out there and I'm really watching deer. Unless I see old Muy Grande walk out, I'm pretty much just sitting there.
I think you got that one this past year. I saw a picture. How many points was that for real?
Well, it's 17.
God bless him. I wasn't far off.
Yeah,
so 75. But yeah, you're right. And so that's why I wanted to bring that part of it up. And here's the thing too. Here's the thing I know about people that are like yourself, cut from the same kind of cloth, where their joy now comes from the point where they get to share with other people their successes. And it's somebody that is always, and you're not an exception, humble. It's like you have such an appreciation for what you've been able to work toward and achieve. And you realize that nobody gave you anything. And here's the other side of that. Sometimes you'll have those people and they choose to be bitter, but you choose to be better. And that is so important. And for you doing that kind of thing, and what you just said is exactly the point. That's exactly the message I would want people to hear here is that, when you're given great opportunities in life, do you owe it to someone else? I think you owe it to yourself. I think you owe it to yourself to be a good person and help other people, because now what you realize is you're setting the tone for the next generation. And it may only be 5 people, maybe 50 people, but it's a ripple effect, man.
That's the goal.
It's a ripple effect.
That's the goal.
You don't know how many lives are they going to touch because you helped them out in that moment. You gave them that memory. You gave them that moment. That's so important. Now, look, I'm going to, full disclosure to my listening audience, to you. There's apparently, I didn't know there's a lot of other backstory for you.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to share some of that, because here's the thing, I think we've built the idea of your hard work, your focus, your intentionality to doing a good job and being the best version of you did open doors, and maybe you hit the right spot at the right time with the right person to be able to put you into positions to grow quickly. But at the same time, You know, it's the story, not just that, but it's that where you came from and you weren't defeated starting out. So granted, you worked hard. Granted, you put yourself in a position, you had a good attitude toward things, but you didn't stop early in life and say you're a victim. So what could you share with the listening audience that you want to share about your personal backstory?
Well, I guess, so when I was 13, my mom, she had a problem. You know what I mean? She had a problem, and eventually it took her from us. Mm. And that was later in life, but she never got away from the problem. And I've lost both parents to addictions. Mm. But we were in my mom's care, and basically at 13 years old,
I was going to ask you how old you were.
That's when it really got bad. Mm-hmm. And when I was 14 years old, I was paying bills.
Wow.
I mean, that's what drove you. Asked me why.
Necessity drove you there.
Necessity.
I didn't know that either.
And we
genuinely.
So, I didn't fund it. I mean, I just trying to make it to where me and my brothers had clothes, and mm-hmm. and it came to a head when I was about 16 or 17 is when the state stepped in and they took us from my mom. Mm-hmm. And we were in foster care. We were in custody of the state, but we were all separated, and that was tough.
That's hard.
Now, my parents split up and remarried, and some of my brothers are halves, but there was four of us. There was four of us together, and then we were all put in different homes, and that was tough.
That's rough.
But at the same time, I was able to really enjoy. I was finally able to enjoy being a kid. When I was 17 years old, I was a hell of a kid. You know what I mean? I cut loose. I worked, but I still got to go out and do stuff. And like I said, I have to give a lot of credit to my teachers and my church, Goodman Oaks Church of Christ. They came in and they bought us all new school clothes and set us up for my senior year. And I don't want to say that it was a Lions Club or a Masons Club came in, and they paid off, got all our stuff out of Hawk that my mom had put, all of our Christmas presents and stuff. And so it was, I mean, we were blessed by so many people just reaching out and saying, hey, it's bad over here, and David Williams, my coach, he recently passed away, but he was such a positive person. And there's so many people that I cannot remember all their names in this time of here. I'm on the frying pan, but they were. Bring a tear to my eye. Just
very instrumental.
Very instrumental, and just so thankful for so many people. And like I said, I just wanted to make them proud, Yeah. And I'm proud of myself.
You should be. So this is a story though that I don't think is so unique to America. I think that you could go nation or you could go internationally, but I think your story is similar to a lot of people out there. They grew up with a hard situation, a family life. Maybe they didn't have all the things that they needed in life. Maybe they ended up in foster care. And I don't think I'm telling you something you don't know. You beat the statistics. You did. I think a lot of those kids, they don't see that pathway of hope, and they don't have the right mentor in their life at that moment. And so what they end up doing is you're going to find something that you can cling to. People try to find an identity. And I'm not acting like I'm the great philosopher of life, but I think it's just true for everyone. We're human. And you try to find somebody that you can identify with. And those type of situations, you go to what you know.
That's
and
right.
Those kids end up on the wrong path. And whether that's gangs, drugs, whatever it is, it ends up usually not very good for them.
That's right.
And they have a long, hard life. And then if they procreate, their kids see that. And then it's generational, and it happens over and over. And so how do you break that cycle? Well, you got to have a few people within the family that say, enough's enough, I'm going to step up. You were that spearhead, sir. And I didn't even know this back part of your story. I did not know it before we walked in here.
Right.
But it does sound like you were that spearhead. Now you understand how important your role was. Can I ask you this? Can you think of some people, kids in particular, that you've been able to see came from a tight spot, and now they're starting to excel and thrive in life that you were a part of? You may or may not have that.
I do, but it's going to take me a minute to draw it out. You know what I mean?
We got time. We got we got a good solid 15 minutes on the show.
Okay.
Let's ride with it.
Well, there's There was a fellow that was working with me,
Mm-hmm.
and his name was Dylan Austin. And he would work at my farm with me, and you could tell this boy just he wanted to be a gangster his whole life. And I'm like, man, this ain't the way. And he gives me a lot more credit than I feel like I deserve, but maybe it's there, and I believed in him. I believed that he could do right. And he now, he got in some bad way with some drugs and stuff like that. And I can't say that I diverted him early because I didn't know him real early in his life, but he was able to work with me and see some of the stuff that I've been able to do. And we grew up in the same neighborhood at different time periods. Mm-hmm. And he was able to, he got in a little trouble. He was able to turn it around, and now he's a counselor at a rehab facility in California, and he is like living the best life.
That's great.
He's one of many that I can not one of many. He's the one that I can remember his name at this moment. But I feel like there's like I've got working with me. I've had a couple Navy SEALs come on through.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, and just to see. Being the top of the heap, you know what I mean? You're able to look down and see, not look down, that might not be the word, but I'm at the top of the heap. So you are looking
30,000 foot view. Sometimes
right.
You get to be able to see stuff that other people may not be paying attention
That's
to.
right.
I get
and you can see what's gonna happen, and you can pray and help, and you can I've been able to just be aware when I see somebody that does have that potential, and I see somebody trying to make the best decisions they can make. Somebody that's trying to make their life better, I will step in, and I try to step in. Try to make that little extra that make Christmas a little better. Even if that helps, you know what I mean. So that's
you're uniquely equipped to be able to do that. Again, I'll go back to a coaching analogy, but when you've been in the game for a minute and you've seen some stuff, been through some things, you see stuff happen before it's happening. You can almost anticipate the next moment, and that just comes through experience, and that comes through years of paying attention. And so what you're saying actually resonates a lot with me. I preach to my paramedic students all the time about you become a better paramedic when you don't have to wait for the problem to exist. Mm-hmm. You can cut it off before it gets there. So you're seeing what the path is going to lead to. And that's what you're able to do. And, without you having the background that you had and going through the things you went through, your heart may have still been just as big. You may have still wanted to help people just as much, but you wouldn't have understood as much as you understand now.
That's right.
I can't relate to a person the way you can relate to a person that is in certain circumstances. And I think that is so important that everybody picks up on this, is that whenever you are going through tough times and you see this rough road ahead of you and you don't know how in the world you're going to get through this, and you don't see a possibility. And so now all of a sudden the depression starts to sink in, and you start to feel like that the only option you have maybe is just drugs or alcohol or suicide, and you're trying to run away from problems. What I want everybody out there to know is that stop for a second. Just stop and think about it. You are not the only person that's been down that road. There are people out there that have been down that same road as you. Find them, reach out to them, because I promise you, their story is the story you need to hear. You need to know that it can be possible. You need to know that you can make it through the storm that you're going through, because storms always happen. They always happen. They're going to come to you in life, but you need to have that point, that focus, that you know that it can happen, you can get through it. And a person like you, Sir Chuk, a person like you is a living example, which is why I needed you on my show. I needed you to tell your story, because I need people out there to feel this message. I need them to feel it and know that it's real. Mm. Coach Camp is in the house.
Not turned up, big dog. Turned up.
I feel it sometimes.
I was feeling it right then.
I just feel it.
You got me all glassy eyed. I was dusty in this mug.
Who's crying? I'm not crying. That's onions. Who's cutting onions in here? But it's so true. It is so true, Chuk. You probably did not have any idea, and I didn't know about some of your backstory, but you had no idea probably about how profound your story is going to hit. And I cannot wait to get the comments back, because there's going to be people all over America. There's going to be people in different parts of the world that are going to send in messages, and they're going to be like, man, Chuk, I needed to know. I needed to know that my family's gone through this. I needed to know that if you just work hard, you stay true to who you are, and you're trying to serve yourself the best and make those behind you proud of you. And then whenever you get to that level, you can turn around and share it with the next generation.
That's right.
The purpose is fulfilled.
That's right.
The purpose is fulfilled.
And then, those people that have influenced you, that supported you, then don't be scared to look back and say, what can I do to give back to something that you're passionate about? Who else what can I do? Because I support so many dang softball teams and baseball teams from these coaches and these parents and these little math clubs.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I love that part of it.
Yeah.
I love that part of it, so.
It is something that is, it is fulfilling.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. Look, we have a couple more things here, and then our time is going to be over, and we're going to have episode part 2, Chuck Cole, which is the other things. There's a lot of your backstory. I do know. My uncle, which is he owns his own limousine company.
That's right.
He loves you to death, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Robert Camp, hashtag throw out to Rob. He watches some of these, so I'm sure he'll check out ours. But here's what I want to ask you as we get close to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
This is if you need a second to just kind of like collect your thought on this, that's fine. I can, I'll sing to the crowd. I'm not a very good singer. My wife loves it when I sing outside the house. What would you let my listeners know right now? If you're going to say, hey, look, if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, if you are struggling, if you are trying to get to that next point in your life where you feel like things are going to be better, what is some of the best advice or comments that you would like to leave with them?
And I wanted to make sure I said this before I left. This is one thing that you quoted. I don't remember who you quoted earlier, but you quoted somebody, and I was fortunate enough to meet this man at the Walmart shareholders meeting about 6-8 years ago. We were doing. I was just listening to some of his stuff, and his name's Micro. He's the guy that comments on all the gold rushes and odd jobs or whatever it is he does.
Dirty jobs.
Dirty
yeah.
jobs.
I remember
there
that
it is. He has a couple quotes, and one of his quotes is don't follow. It's not, you don't always have to follow your dreams, but you should always follow your opportunities. And I might not be quoting that just right, but
I get
the context was there. And back to the beginning of mine, I wanted something stable in my life when I had a dream to become an engineer, and I wanted to do cool stuff. At least I wanted to work on airplanes or space shuttles or helicopters or something, and it fascinated you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But while I'm sitting there going through this stuff and learning from, half of the professors that I couldn't understand what they were saying because they're crazy intelligent. But
I'm a professor. That's not me, though. Keep it. Sorry to interrupt.
It's all good. But while I was sitting there, entertainment was sitting there knocking at my door saying, we need you. Mm-hmm. We need you. And I didn't realize what it would turn out to be. To doing just a little homecoming small. It wasn't small. It was really good size. It was, a jillion people out there or whatever. But now we work on the Young Rock show. We got guys following the PGA. We've got guys that, getting to do Super Bowls, did Morgan Wallen down here in Oxford, so.
The one he was at or the one he canceled?
Yes.
Okay.
We built the whole thing. So
Gotcha.
So it was, but I mean, follow your opportunities. Don't miss your opportunities. That's what I try to emphasize to my kids and every child that I sit and talk to in a deer stand. It is, you may want to be a marine biologist one day, but sometimes fixing that boat can turn you into, can give you the opportunity to do something else,
Absolutely.
Just, so my skill set was, and I had to go with my skill set in life was dealing with folks with addictions. Mm-hmm. And dealing with people that, and some of my staff, are coming in and out of, problems and stuff like that. And I'm able to be a shining light to them and somebody that can help them with their problems. I try to, at least. Mm-hmm. And some of them can't be helped. And that might not be the right message. You might want to delete that comment.
Well, no, I think it's accurate. As a paramedic, I wanted to save 100% of my patients.
Right.
That wasn't a reality.
Yeah.
But if I saved, 20% or 30%, it was going to be worth the effort because that 20 or 30 may not have been here if I hadn't made that call. Yeah. So you just realize you can't save them all. You shouldn't go into it thinking that that's your pass-fail rate is in life, but you should attempt to help them all. And that's the idea. And that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. And some of them have gone in the wrong direction, but some of them, like I said, we've got Navy SEALs that have graduated, that have gone through our little deal. We've got tons of nurses, you know what I mean? And then, there's I mean, all walks of life. You know, we've even had a couple of rock stars that found their home with us. You know what I mean? So, and, you know, guys got jobs touring, you know, so it's I don't know. It's cool to see all the different things I've been able to network and do and see. And before we were there, you know, some of the legends that I've been able to meet artist wise. So never knew that it would turn into this, but I'm glad I'm not dealing with aerospace. I'm glad I'm not a mechanical engineer.
Right.
I couldn't dream it any better than what I have it right now.
Yeah, the only thing I think I'd rather be doing right now maybe is playing second base for the Yankees, but that is fading quickly because I hurt every day I wake up. So,
Dude,
so the older I get, it's just like, you know what, that ain't going to work out anyway. So
That's
we're
right.
going to have to let that dream go. But Chuck, you absolutely are a shining example of more of what we need in this world. I do appreciate your time coming down here. As you said, you got a lot of irons in the fire. That hasn't changed.
That's right.
Still out there busy getting it done.
Trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to have you back on. So I got to know more of the backstory. There'll have to be another time. It'll be like an update part 2, Chuck.
All right.
Maybe in 2025 or something. And they'll be like, hey, look, Chuck's back. And I don't know how we'll do it, but it'll be an exciting intro for sure.
If there's enough demand, we'll try.
I think there'll be plenty of demand. But I seriously want to thank you for coming out today and
I've
sharing part of
enjoyed
your
it.
story. And I know it's going to hit home for a lot of folks out there.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
To my listeners, thank you. I love you guys. Please continue to tune in each and every week. I cannot express to you how important it is that this message get out there because it ain't about me. It's about my guest and it's about us as a community. Continue to grow things. Continue to love people. That's what this message is all about. Motivate with Coach Camp. The with is in there for a reason, people. Look, go to my social media sites. Go to motivatewithcoachcamp.com. And until next time, Coach Camp out.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe